Hey everyone, welcome to another Decisions Lunch and Learn. I'm going to be your host today, Gregory Goldston, and today we will be going over whatever sort of questions as you have, which is the usual, as you all know. A reminder that we have a Decisions YouTube channel. We're getting new content there, as we have been, and it's a great resource. Also, we got DocBot still. DocBot is now put into Decisions versions 7, 8, and 9. You can interact with it through the way that you would interact with support chat, which I will point out once we are inside of my Decisions environment. Okay, and I think that is all the announcements that I've got. So please start filling up your questions. I see we've got quite a lot of people here today. So pardon me while I switch over my screen. Okay, we're in my decisions environment now. And then down here, this little blue support chat button. This is where you would put in your email address. And then as soon as that happens, I can start asking DocBot things like how how do I create a flow? Let's just ask something very simple. And you give it a moment. It always takes a little bit, kind of a buffer here. And there we go. Navigate to the designer folder, open the flow designer, design your workflow. Once it's opened, configure the steps. This is telling you how to actually build it out once you've actually created it. But yeah, pretty neat, right? All right, so that's how that works. Pretty straightforward. Yes, I want to end this chat. And this is all just previous stuff that I've been working on. So feel free to post your questions. In the meantime, I am developing a training. Oh, we have a hand raise from Radley. So let me allow you to talk. I'm gonna move this over here just to make this a little easier. And then where's my Q&A? Okay, Radley, go ahead. We should be able to hear you now.
Hey, Gregory. Um, I have my dev environment on 9.6, and I'm ready to move that into production. But we're going to start using the repository
Okay.
now. So I moved my first project into the repository, and I've read the documentation on it, and just want to get some advice. So we have a two-tier system, right? We have dev and prod.
Mm-hmm.
Um, do I need do I need to set up a branch, or can I just use the trunk? Like what would be the
Okay.
advice here?
Um, the first thing I actually am going to do, actually, Jasmine, would you mind putting that into the chat, the link to the repository videos on the YouTube channel? They go over what those functionalities do. But
Yeah.
the idea is that you do not have to put it into a branch. The
Okay.
branches are there for organizational purposes. So if you are trying to have different versions of a product without just doing simple revision numbers, you can import a particular branch into your production. So if I were to go to here, I'm actually probably connected to a repository here. So let's see if this works. Check out project. Error. Oh well. So it's not connecting to my repository server. But when you check out a project, you would select which branch to check out from whichever branch you create in the repository. So the idea is, let's say you do a check-in. That check-in occurs on trunk. All right, you push it to the trunk. In the repository server, you would then branch off that particular copy of that trunk, and now it's in that branch. Maybe you could call it like a prod demo. All right, and then you push the prod demo branch to the repository. I mean, sorry, to the production environment. Afterwards, let's say you make another update in your development environment and push it again. That push is going to be on the trunk, all right? And then you make another branch off of that in the repository. We can call that prod for real or something like that. Your production environment can't have both. It has to check in either only one branch or the trunk. You can't combine them in the production. The idea here is to segregate the projects in the repo or different versions of the project in the repo so that if there was an issue with one, or maybe if you're trying to check it out into different environments, then you could have those versions in those branches of that project. That's the idea behind it. So you are not required to put into a branch. You can check it out of trunk directly, but I would definitely take a look at the repository video because it does cover how that works in a little bit more detail. So I do recommend just taking a look at that before you do your check and checkout process. But you're not required to put it in a branch.
Yeah, and I watched that video and it made sense if you have a QA environment. Like I get that. I'm just
Right.
not immediately understanding or seeing the benefit of a branch if I'm just going, dev to repository, repository to prod.
There may not be in your use
Okay.
case. Yeah, with how you're doing it, it may be easier just to keep everything on trunk and just revert revisions rather than revert branches. Because you can go back and change a revision, like a checkout, and it's like, oh, wait, that checkout had something failed, just revert it back to the old revision on trunk. So it's just there for organizational purposes. It is helpful with multiple environments. It's not required. And that's probably our recommendation is whatever's easier to keep track of projects for your deployment. But yeah, nothing's gonna break if you check out trunk.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah,
Just want to make sure I wasn't missing
if it's
something.
working if it's working, um, there's no functional difference between the project in dev and the project in trunk. Just be aware of environment variables like, oh, we were using this API password and now in production it's different. So that's good. It's stuff to like that you want to watch out
Yeah.
for.
And for things like that, do I change that in the repository or would I change that after it's been um, checked out to production?
We have
Do
a
I change that in
fantastic
production?
We
Yeah,
actually have a
sorry.
fantastic video on this.
Awesome.
I just made this recently, so I will fetch this for you real quick. It is environment specific project variables. That is the name of it. And hold on. I'm going to pull it up and I'm going to put the link in here. If I can spell environment, there we go. Managing environment specific project variables. Okay, so let me copy this. Hold on. Let me get the link to copy this. And then I will put this into the chat once I can find it again. I seem to have lost it. All right, here we go. So the main recommendation here is that a you create a separate project, all right? And this is called I'll call it the constants warehouse in my demonstration here. But the idea is in here, I have my project constants, okay? So not health, sorry. It's in configuration, variables, constants. All right. So I have these, right? Main password, main API URL, something like that, right? I would check this project into the repository, and I would also declare my main project a dependency on this. So it has access to everything in this project. This project, I would section off into different environments. Like, okay, this is my test branch, this is my production branch. And then what would happen is then you make the changes to this project and check in those changes, right, for these different environment variables. And you're not touching your main project, right? Your main project is just using the variables from this because it is depending on it. So I think I used dashboard demo for this. And under manage configuration dependencies, I declared a dependency upon my constants warehouse project. So it's a great way you can manage all of your project constants just from one project checked into different branches. And this YouTube video covers a step by step on how to set that up.
Cool. That's exactly what I've done. I'll watch the video for more information. I appreciate that, Gregory. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Cool beans. I do see a question in the Q&A now, so let's address that. Also, I lost my participants tab. Give me a moment. Here we go. All right, so hello. How do I make a list output on a data repeater? I'm using a data flow that outputs a list, but whenever I try to map that to a drop-down list, it doesn't take it as an input. Manal, this is going to be a little bit depending upon how you have this configured. Let me unmute you so that we can get this set up correctly. You should be able to talk now. So
Hello, Greg. Can you hear me?
yes, I can, loud and clear.
Awesome.
Okay, so you've got a data repeater and
Hmm.
you're trying to make a list output, right?
Yes.
What do you mean by list output? A list from each individual item or a
Mhm.
list of items being put out from the form as a whole?
So what I did is like, so I'll give you a little bit background. I have a dashboard, right? I have a
Okay.
report where I just created like add item. So the user just goes in and then adds the item, and I created a defined data structure for it. I did the whole thing. It has, for example, item name, item title, and item mate. Those three fields in the data structure. But and then I just created a data flow in the data repeater, which fetched that data structure. And for example, I put in a filter that, hey, if they do item name, give me this field back, which is a list of item type. But I know like I usually am able to put it on the regular form, like the list out as an input, but
Hmm.
for some reason it doesn't work on the data repeater. And it's really simple flow, but I just cannot get that on the data repeater field as a drop-down list.
As a drop-down list. Okay,
Mhm.
let's configure this real quick. So let's go to our let's create a data type because that's going to make this a little bit easier to work with here. And I'm just going to make
Mhm.
a database structure. So, all right, so this is what did you say this kind of field was or this structure?
Yeah, so it's just the name, title, and just like a regular car structure. I just put that there.
Okay, name,
Hmm.
title. Okay. And then
Mate, yeah, whichever you want.
all right, let's go that. So
Mhm.
let me make sure before I finish making this. You are
Mhm.
trying to populate a drop down form control inside of a data repeater and it's
Mhm.
throwing an error.
Yes.
Okay. Is that drop down list part of your database structure, whatever structure you're using?
Yes. I
Okay.
added it to the database structure.
Okay, so let's call this type, right? I think that's what you were calling it before.
Mhm.
That should be a list of strings.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
because here, yeah, let's. I'm not certain this is going to work as a single type, but let's try it. Let's try it as a single type and see if this functions, okay?
That's right.
So we'll go into our data repeater test. Go in here, edit. We'll create the data repeater. Drop that in, create that from scratch. Whoops. Okay, and then let's add a column here. And then we've got one that's going to, oh,
And Greg, I have two lists though. So two drop-down lists in my data repeater. One is a name that they select, and then it shows the type of the car. So it's
okay.
like two drop-down lists.
And it's failing for both of them, right?
Well, it fails only for the type because the name is okay. It shows the name, all of them, but the type doesn't work.
Interesting. Okay, so the data name would come from here, and then this would be, let's make name a drop down real quick. Hold on.
Okay, because end up making the name the static list rather than having it coming from the data structure. So I end up making that as a static list. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Let's try something real quick here. Let's see
Mhm.
if we can. Oh, I see. So you're trying to populate the list source from something that's not static for the hold on. So we'll drag this to the end here. So for the type, you have
Mhm.
this as let's just say it's a list of strings, okay? And then your list input source, you have a data name and that active
Mhm.
form flow populates that, right?
Yes.
Okay. Let's Yeah, I am not certain that this is going to work. Let's see here. How can we do this?
Because even if so that wasn't working That's why I made it static. It was supposed to be like the drop down list, just fetching the entities. Like usually, like there's a list of name and then you select the name, it auto populates from that name, it goes out and it's like, okay, these are the option under that name. And I was trying to do that, but it's just nothing was working. So that's why I made it static. But if there's any other better way to do it, would be great.
I'm trying to figure that out because I'm not so certain unless we could add another form of input to this. And then the selected this is where it gets tricky because if you make that a list, right? If you make our data structure a list, this works fine. But then the selected item data name would be overriding that list, and that would throw an
Mhm.
issue.
Yeah, and for that one, I kind of figured out if I put in a data flow, when I created my data flow in the output, I
Hmm.
named exactly the same thing, whatever it's like the form data for you. So that way it does work with that though, if I create a data flow. But it just doesn't take it. It's keep giving me an error saying that um, data name is not a component of expecting a list.
Mm, I think we update inputs. Radley is raising his hand on this. He might
Mhm.
have a suggestion. Radley, what you got?
I think my hand was still up from before.
Oh,
I
my bad, my
noticed it.
bad.
No worries. No worries.
Never mind. Okay, let's see. So if we have a flow output data name, I'm just gonna call this type list. And then flow input data, we can update the inputs here, and those don't need to come from, oh, no, 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 no. Hold on. So we'll fetch the type. Hold on. Just want to fetch entity step, output type. Let's see how this works. We can apply more logic to this later as far as the actual criteria for it. We just want to make sure that the actual structure is functioning. So that fetches the list of input type as a drop down, and the output is saying it to form data. This might work. Let's see here. We're going to create some and give this a test. Data name. Oh, it doesn't like that. I don't have an outcome button. Hold on. Also, I'll just add these. I'm going to make this very basic for now. Save that. Save that. Create some of those real quick, just so we can test it. And the only thing we have populated is type right now, which is not going to be a problem. Just build data, make these constants. I don't know. Let's. I'm just gonna leave that blank for now, and then type. This is where it matters. I don't know. This is a. No, it's actually a sedan, isn't it? Okay. Let's just create a few real quick. So debug. That should create one. I'm going to change the type real quick. I know this isn't accurate. Forgive me, car enthusiasts. Let me just try to get some different information coming in here. That should be enough to at least demonstrate a list populating. So let's drag this back, see if this functions. We have a data flow that runs in the background to populate that. Ignore. Ignore. All right, let's see how this works. Haha. There we go. So if I do that, that would output that into this form on the output step. Yep, there we go. Current item. Did I map name to sedan? Oh, I bet I did. I bet I map name instead of type. Okay, so that functions. So here's what you're doing instead.
Mhm.
Um,
And Brett, would that still work if I have like two drop-down lists that are dependent? So for example, name populates the list for the type. So if you do sedan, then all the types of sedan would show up. Would that still do it? Because that's kind of what I'm trying to figure it out. And that's when it keeps yelling at me.
let's see here. So
Mhm.
the way that we would do that is probably set up input data. I will say, I'll call this name. All right, so this is our name filter that's coming in, and that's going to be applied to this and sorting this by name, right? So we sort the field
Mhm.
by name. I'm not going to add that right now. I just want to make sure that this functions as expected. Name typed in list, that's the flow input data. So if we have another output, can we set this flow input data is the question. And then source type text, expose as form input, expose from form control.
And I am on version 8, so I don't think I have that option though.
Oh, really? This is not an option with
I don't think so. I've never seen expose as forming, but it does come in when I'm trying to build a data flow, like a complete separate data flows under legacy, but it doesn't come on the drop down though, for me at least.
So this is not a data flow under legacy in the sense of an active form flow. This is something different. This is when you configure the list input source as
Hmm.
a flow, you have this option.
Oh, okay, okay, gotcha. That makes sense. Let me just see.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So the question is here now.
Hmm.
This is now a form input. That's where this comes in from. Can we make this drop down set a form input? And we might be able to. Let's see. It would need to be an active form. Oh, I bet we can. Oh, I so bet we can. Hold on, hold on. So this type is a string. The string import source is going to be static. I'm going to set this one static for now because this will be our list of cars. We'll fetch this later. We'll fetch this later from the list of cars. But let's just see if this can dynamically set the other one. All right, so okay, let's go with that for now. Selected item data name is going to be the name now that we've updated the other one. And now we'll run an active form flow. This is going to change on the combo box when the selection gets changed. We're going to edit this flow, and this, I believe, will set that filter to whatever is selected here with just a simple create data step. So right here, this should be our name. Save that as a string. Give that a moment. And now the name is going to be flow data. That will be the selected item. Is this it? No. Hold on. Current item name. Okay. So current item name, and then it will update and change the value. Let's see if this works. So the last thing we need to do now is we'll call this something set type. Hit OK. And now we just need to create something that actually makes sense here. So Ford, Chevy, Nissan, that's fine. We have one that does have Ford here. So let's edit this, fetch entities, and we want to add a fetch criteria where name is Ford, form, Ford. There we go. And then that flow data will come in from name, which we preset there. Let's see if this works. Okay. So filter, we're going to ignore that for now because that gets set. Debug, add data. So if I set it to Nissan, there should be nothing. If I set it to Ford. Ooh, all right. What's going on? What's going on? Let's check the background here. Rule flow, rule flow. Okay, so that's create data. That's saying the filter step, input, output, filter gets set to Nissan. That doesn't change anything because that doesn't affect anything. Input, output, name is Ford. All right, the name that has our output data is done. We're not passing anything out. Okay, what's going on here? So those active form flows are running. Let's see if we can figure this out. I think we're very close. Okay, so the form input data is the name that's coming from the form input, and that form input is called filter. That filter is getting set from our active form flow. This is setting the type. Selection change. So this creates the data. It selects the current item's name, and it sets that as the filter of the form data type control filter. Wait a minute. No, that is filter. That is what we're selecting as filter. I guess the last thing is let's make sure that our data actually does have the appropriate thing in the name. Like I may have called it make Ford. I may not have called the name actually that. So let's confirm that our data is right real quick. Save that. Create that. Name. Yeah, I think I actually set this to focus before. So let's set type. We only want those entities, the type to be fetched where the name is Ford. So I think that might have been an issue. Let's see if this works now. Whoop, went way too far out. Nope, wait. We don't need to make more of these. That's just going to make this more difficult. All right, let's debug. Add data. Ford. Ah, what's going on? We were right there.
Yeah, and that's how literally it does it for me too. Like it's just a blank list and but at least it gives me like a little warning sign. And I just don't
Okay,
know.
so that fetch, if flow input name, update inputs. It's got to be in our active form flow. I don't think it's setting the correct thing. I have a feeling that's what's going on, is that it's not setting it correctly. I may have to take this offline and experiment a little bit more.
Gotcha.
Well, hold on. Well, I don't see any more questions in the chat right now, so I don't mind taking another stab at this while we're on here.
Mhm.
So that is not populating that correctly. That's part of the input data on the form with active form flows data. Hmm, I wonder. That is getting the current item name. That is fetching correctly. We saw that in our debugger. Form input data. Hmm.
Greg, if you do select like has selected under the form data in the active flow, would that make it work? You know how you have it filter in the combo box?
This one?
Inside the workflow, inside the active workflow.
All right.
If you, so for example, here, I think you had it somewhere filter rather than filter, select the selected. There's an option combo box selected item. Would that work?
Selected item. Let's see here. That might work. So it's taking the selected, it's changing the value of the selected item in the type combo box. I don't, My hesitancy with that is that this is changing the value of the selected item to whatever we're selecting here. So if we pick Ford, I think it's setting this to Ford, not as a filter for the fetch. Um, yeah, let me take this offline experiment with it a little bit because we do have another question in the chat. So we'll come back and keep looking at this.
That is amazing. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry. I was like, I hope this is not the end of my decisions. Like, how can I not output a list in a data repeater? Because it's so easy to do it on a form. And I have done it multiple times, but just with the data repeater, but anything would be really helpful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure thing. I'll keep looking at it. All right. Our next question is, you're going to ask if it was possible to add a number by a report folder name on the left-hand side to show how many entities are on said report. Ooh. Ooh, okay, hold on. Let me unmute you real quick. On the left side specifically, I know we can do it on the right side. So,
Yeah, so kind of like how you would see like the like a my tasks kind of thing where you can actually see um all you can see like you'll have like your my task folder, and then next to that there will be a number showing exactly how many assignments you have, if that makes sense.
yep. So, quick clarification question on this then. You're asking about so report folder name. So on the folder, not on the report.
Correct. So this would be uh
Gotcha.
and on the like if you were in the studio view before, um I guess it would be called my inbox.
Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about. Okay, yeah, I thought you meant reports. Like you can just add account right here and that'll get that for you. But let's see here. Okay, so we're going to here, inbox, and then the little indicator that shows up here
Yes,
in like
exactly.
version 8, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I had a feeling it's a version 8. In version 9, that counter got removed for performance reasons. So the answer is yes, you can do that. Um, because there are particular steps to setting up that dynamic number to show. I would have to go check the product team's training on this and get back to you because there are particular steps to set up such a report that would show the count of the items within the report in that icon there. I don't recall how to do it off the top of my head, and it's something that I don't know enough about to be able to do it immediately. But I can absolutely go look at that training again and send you the step by step on how to configure that yourself because it can be done.
Yeah, that'll be great. Um yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't have a more useful answer for you, but I do not remember it, and I know there's a training on it, so I just need to go and watch that and figure that out.
Yeah. No worries. I had another question then if you
Yeah, what you got?
it, um So I know that when you are I guess acknowledging a when you're acknowledging a task off of say if like you're like how do I put it? So when someone's given an initial task, they're given an sometimes an email, right, along saying this is assigned to you.
Right.
Um, right. Okay. And sometimes what you're able to do is you're able to put a button in that email and you're able to uh, the user can click on that button and it takes them to the task itself to say if they wanted to I don't know, acknowledge it or whatever, right?
Right.
Now, the question I have is not necessarily with the initial email because but it's with the subsequent reminder emails. So on the subsequent reminder emails, um if you were to have um and I was told that this is possibly a system restraint in which if you're trying to acknowledge it on a reminder email through a specifically through a mobile device,
Hmm.
then there is some sort of problem there. And I just want to get a little more clarification on that.
Might I ask where you got that information from?
It was kind of just word of mouth from one of the from yeah it was just word of mouth also that was it. So I guess it's not completely concrete, but that's kind of just what I heard.
Interesting. Let me look into this. What version of decisions are you on?
It's, freelance. Um,
I'm going to look into something on my end real quick. Let's see if we can figure
this
out.
is a version 8.12.1.71934.
Okay. Let's see. I'm looking at release notes and I'm trying to figure out if this is a known issue or not. Because I'd like to understand if this is something that, should be happening, if it's known. So let's see. You're saying it's mobile and it's with assignments. Let's see here. What are our different? And just to make sure I understand the problem, when a reminder email is sent out and you try to access that through the mobile, um, when you try to access that assignment through a mobile device from an email, there is an error occurring.
It just you're unable to acknowledge it through the reminder email through a mobile device.
Cannot acknowledge it through the mobile device through a reminder email. Okay. Hmm. Let's see. Fix the problem. Hmm. I might have to reach out to our support team to ask about this. I have not heard of this particular issue before, but this sounds like a bug. So I want to reach out to them. In fact, actually, let me give you their email. And the reason for that is they can go in, see your environment, see what you're seeing, and be able to make the changes directly.
Yeah, I have a ticket open with them regarding it. I was just like gonna also come on here just for like
Mm.
uh,
I have admittedly not heard of that issue before, but I have not tried to personally run assignment reminders in version 8.12 from a mobile device. So I've never actually done that particular thing before. So may never heard of it. Yeah, if you've got an open ticket with them, I don't, from what you're describing, it doesn't sound like a configuration issue. This sounds like a bug. I'd like to understand from them if it's a bug that was fixed already or if it's something that needs to be put in.
okay.
So, yeah, I unfortunately don't have a recommendation outside of keeping up with support. And I can, they're a stone's throw away from me right now. Do you remember who you're talking with? Because I can discuss that with them, give them more
Oh,
clarity.
I'm uh going over with um I think Kobe right now. I'm actually about to send him a export of the project that I'm kind of talking about. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I can discuss that with him as well. But it sounds like if you've already got the project being sent over, he's probably going to be able to recreate that really quickly.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, sounds good. Sorry, I don't have more information there. That does sound like a bug thing. Also, if I might acknowledge, because this is referring to your earlier question, from the anonymous attendee, you can move the folder count to the left with CSS. Um, Yeah, so to the anonymous attendee, what we are discussing is adding a folder count. So uh creating it from scratch and then adding it to that folder. So let me show you real quick. So in higher versions, this doesn't even exist as a default option anymore, so you have to create it from scratch. And that's why I need to go and figure out how to do that. But yes, if you do have the folder count like in a report, you could change the display there with CSS as far as where that's displayed.
Okay.
Create
Okay.
folder look.
Um. Hmm.
I'm getting notified of a create folder look. Let's see what that's about. Uh, move icon. Well, that move icon. Okay. So there is folder view. There's nothing in this yet, so we're not actually going to see anything. Let's just create a flow just to populate this, and then flow 2. Cool. All right. Go to folder view. There should be a flow behavior for that. That's what it was. It was create folder look. That was what it was. That was the name of it. Let's see. Yeah, I'll take a look. Let me just go through probably just gonna search all of it. That just makes more sense, right? It's something along those lines. We'll figure it out. That's not it. But yeah, we'll figure that out for you.
Okay. Sure. Yeah. Those are my only questions I think I had. I appreciate
Okay.
that.
Yep, I'll reach out to you an email about the first one, and I'll talk with support, but the communication will be through them for the second question. And of course, Manal, I will continue to work on tweaking that particular setup and then send you a working project once I have that. Okay, cool beans, y'all. Do we have any more questions? Oh, and the answer for the repeater, you were not setting the data. I created the active form flow to change the source. I wasn't using a form control to set it. Or a form rule variable. So in here, in the active form flow, we have the combo box, which updates it, right? So the changing of this combo box makes this run. The active form flow runs, and then it would change the output to whatever the name is of the current item that's selected from the name, which actually, oh, it was current item name. Right? So this gets the current item name. And then the output, it changes the value of the filter for the form data, the type combo box, the one that has a type in it. You don't need to use a set value step. This is a cheeky workaround. You can directly, instead of, you can use change value and just set that value directly onto wherever you want. You have access to the same data, but I can use I can use a set form control. They'll do the same thing. So if I go to form rules, set value, set control value there. Nope, nope, nope. There we go. So if I select form data, the type combo box, I have the filter that I can set from here. I can do it either that way or via the set control. So this will be the from flow, and that is our. Oh, I guess there wouldn't have been an output because I set this to change value. So let's do this to rename real quick, and I'll just call this my filter, and then pass my filter here. So you could do it this way too. This is the more traditional way. But this should accomplish the exact same function as the one before it. Other than that, you can create a flow structure for the repeater with two fields. Type and name will be lists. You could do it that way. You could make type and name lists. You could expand the data field. I don't know if it's I'm trying to make it work this way just so you don't have a data field that's kind of all over the place, but you can do it that way. And just for everyone else watching, what we're discussing here is that you could go into this structure. You could have a name, a title, a make, a type, and then have a list of names and a list of types that would all technically be part of this, and you would only need these four for your actual usage of data. You would just kind of ignore these later. They'd just be used for the flow. So you can do it that way. I was trying to avoid making unnecessary structures, but if that's the only way to do it after some more testing, then so be it. So yeah, I'll get to work on that. And I haven't seen any questions come in, so I think we're just gonna end it here. It's pretty close to 1 o'clock anyway on our time. So I hope you all had a wonderful lunch and learn experience. We will start off the lunch and learns next week with I don't know who's leading them. We'll figure that out. But anyways, see you all Monday.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.